What's up, everybody? Metal Dave Glessner here, along with my co-host Jason McMaster, bringing you another episode of the Talk Louder podcast. Today, we are honored to have Kurdt Vanderhoof with us, founding member, guitar player of Metal Church, one of the all-time great classic metal bands. We get to talk to him about the latest Metal Church record, Congregation of Annihilation. It's amazing. And a lot of his side projects. He's got a number of things in the works that'll be coming out soon. He's a very busy man.
Yes.
He is currently at home recuperating. He's got a back injury, which prevented Metal Church from continuing a tour supporting Congregation of Annihilation. But he's in great spirits, as you will find out. He was an amazing guest, so much fun to talk to. And we were just honored to have him as being longtime Metal Church fans. It was great to have him on our show.
I've been a fan of Metal Church, as most everyone who knows me, for decades. So the new book just came out, Beyond the Black, The Story of Metal Church by James R. Beach with Brian L. Naron, and Naron. One of those is got to be right. The foreword is written by Nick Bocott, I believe.
Yes.
Some might know him as the original guitar player for Grim Reaper, but
Right.
also has an article in one of the Guitar Player magazines going on decades now, as well as he may still be the Marshall amplification rep there in California, I believe. So anyway, it just tells the whole nugget. It starts from the very, very beginning, from when Kurdt was playing in punk bands and was in San Francisco for a while and hanging out with everyone there who was enamored and blown away by new wave of British heavy metal stuff that was flowing like a river in certain metropolis through the tape trading scene. And a lot of metal bands were formed through that those friendships, and Metal Church was one of them. He talks about that a little bit. We didn't really get to give a fair swing to this book. Please, people, check out this book. It's really awesome. And Kurdt did a bunch of interviews for this. It just goes and goes and goes.
And it's got a submission from you. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was asked to write an essay for this, and I'm honored to be part of it. They gave me a spread. It's like 2 pages left and right. I was like, wait, what? It made me look and feel really special. So thank you. I met those guys on their first tour. The story real quick was Metal Church and Omen on their first tour, and Militia got to open the debut tour, and then Mike Solis's other band was new at the time called Assailant, opened the Dark when they came back through on the Dark tour. Mike Solis was on both gigs, and wow. I think they were openers at the San Antonio shows as well. And I was just along for the ride, and they let me in. It was just awesome. Crew was so nice. Everybody's so nice. So I've had this ongoing kind of like, oh my God, dude, how are you? Anywhere I go and there's a Metal Church person, if their personnel is there, I'm in. So yeah. It's been great. They're super people. As you just found out, Dave.
Yes.
Kurdt Vanderhoof is great.
I've never met him before, but I think our listeners and viewers are going to find him as enjoyable as I did. He's super contagious with his enthusiasm towards what he does. He's a great talker, great stories. I mean, in a word, he's just completely likable. I mean, so much fun to hang out with. And again, the new Metal Church album is called Congregation of Annihilation. It's been out for about 9 or 10 months now. But it's fantastic. New singer Mark Lopes is doing a fantastic job on that album.
Yes.
If you haven't heard it, go look it up. And as you'll find out from our episode today, Kurdt has a number of other things on the way that you'll be interested as well. So Kurdt Vanderhoof from Metal Church today on the Talk Louder podcast.
The party doesn't start till you get here.
Thank you. Thank you for waiting.
I don't know if Kurt still parties.
Not the way we used to.
Hello.
Who does?
Who can? Well, the ones that do and can aren't really around much anymore. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's
which is unfortunate. But yeah, no, I don't really. I don't. It just kind of left. I was very lucky going through all that. The 80s and everything. And the only thing I got addicted to was cigarettes. And I kicked that about 13 years ago. So.
Oh, that's good.
Oh,
that's
good
that's a big one.
Yeah, that was a big one, but that was about it. So I feel very fortunate in that respect. So
good for
fantastic.
you. Good for you. Yeah, man. Thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks. Good to be here, man.
Yeah.
We had Tammy Down from Faster Pussycat on and talk about partying. He's the king of partying, or used to be, right? I mean, you just say Faster Pussycat and you can probably put it all together.
Right. He's a former Seattle boy too. Yeah.
Correct. And he looks and sounds and talks and walks and is just he's healthy.
Good for him. That's good to hear.
Yeah. And I think he's just addicted to coffee now.
Hey, I do that in the morning. That's the one thing I do. I do coffee.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, but it's amazing that just those things that you never know why or when you will kick those. Yep. Or ever, if you ever will. But when it starts to be your demon killer, it starts to kill you and be your only, when your vices become your personality.
Right.
Yeah. So what was it for you, Kurt? What was the last straw that got you to quit smoking?
I just was like, because I work out and I eat right and everything. And then I like go to the gym and work out and eat right, and then go to the store and get cigarettes. And it was just like, this makes no sense.
Right.
I'm sitting there worrying about what I'm eating and exercising and, kind of, be healthy as I'm facing, wait, I'm getting old. Wait, everybody's doing it, but still, it's like, this is stupid. And so finally I got a handle on it and I quit. Turns out it was I found this book, and I'm going to say this just because it really helped me. It's called The Easy Way to Quit Smoking. It's a book called that. You can smoke while you read it, and it just kind of changes your perspective on it, and it worked.
Wow, that's
did you have to gradually get off it? Like, did you have to vape or chew the gum or
no? I mean, I tried the patches for a while, a few years before that, and it worked. But it's still, now I was addicted to these patches, and it helped, and then I got stupid as well. Well, that wasn't that bad. I'll just have a cigarette, then start it up again, one of those kind of things. So, yeah, but when I finally did, it was just this book that kind of changes the way you think about it. Basically what it is when you start jonesing for a cigarette, you realize your body's getting rid of the nicotine, and you got used to kind of change. Made you feel like you kind of enjoyed it. The feeling of that wanting a cigarette, because that's your body getting rid of it. And then you just kind of went with that. That's an oversimplification, but it worked. Never smoked again.
Wow, that's
whatever it takes.
That's amazing that someone was able to, the power of suggestion. You were just reading someone's, kung fu.
Right. That's pretty much it. Yeah. And it's kind of like the whole thing. Well, cigarettes are harder to quit than heroin. And you keep hearing that, and then you believe it. And it's like, no, it's not.
Right.
No, I wasn't on the floor convulsing or anything like that. I was, just trying to quit cigarettes. Is like, just kind of, hey, don't talk to me for a couple days.
Yeah, you weren't having to change your pants.
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah, I wasn't throwing up to get high and bleeding to get high or anything.
Yeah,
so
dirty.
It was kind of a myth. But no, that was the only thing I got. So I'm very grateful every day for, to still be able to play music and still be in the biz and be relatively healthy,
Yeah,
so.
it was great. We can, we just have a conversation. We can jump around, do whatever we want. It was really great The minute that I discovered when Oliver from Keep It True was putting Watchtower right in front of you of Metal Church, that was a great day for me.
That was great. You were the only band I watched that day.
Was super. Thank you. I was super excited just because of the history and a fan, and I was just like, this is perfect.
Yeah,
I don't have to go to the hotel and then come back to see the bands I want to see, kind of a thing.
Right.
So,
right. Exactly.
It was great. So I was really also happy on top of that to run into you in the lobby at like 5:30 a.m.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. With our body clocks all turned around. Yeah.
Right. Because we were trying to haul ass to the airport.
Right. Yeah. You guys were just going, and we were staying there for a while, I think. You guys are going home, and we had a few more shows, I think.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah.
Where'd you go after that?
We got into the van. I don't remember, it's like, I don't remember.
He wasn't driving.
We got in the van, went to the airport and flew somewhere else. And
okay. It wasn't in Germany right down the road.
No,
okay.
We weren't playing.
Right.
Yeah, we weren't playing the circuit.
Okay.
No,
right.
I think we did another festival. No, we go to Malta or someplace weird like that.
Okay. I think you did. I think that you guys, one of you guys had told me that you were headed to Malta.
Yeah, didn't even know where it was until we got a gig booked there, and we're like,
"Well,
where's Malta?"
That was really special, and I'm glad that we got in touch, which brought us to end up having you as our guest today. So again,
wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah,
things happen for a reason.
Yeah, and
you mentioned that you stuck around and watched Watchtower that day. Had you seen him in the early years in 85, 86, etc.?
I think so. I mean, I want to make sure that it wasn't Dangerous Toys, but I'm pretty sure it was Watchtower, like one of the first early runs we ever did through Texas. I'm pretty sure that we saw you guys at some point because, again, some of that is a blur.
Oh,
but, but that's why I really wanted to see it because, I mean, I've certainly seen Dangerous Toys. Matter of fact, I was just listening to that today.
Far out.
Hey.
Yeah.
Far out. Well, I was just listening to this today.
Dude. Cool.
I was listening to this.
That's show and tell.
Hey, everybody's copping to it now. The new Hall of Flame's coming out this spring too.
Yeah,
so
really, you're still doing that?
Well, not still, just came back to do that.
We got back into it. I love your singer. Is it the same singer?
No, it's a different singer.
Okay, all right.
Because that was one of the reasons why the band fell apart at the time. But
okay.
Also, Hall of Flame, we were doing our straight up meat and potatoes rock and roll in Seattle in the early 90s. Nobody was going to pay attention,
Right, well,
it was grunge.
I know.
We weren't cool at all. We know
all about that. We can talk about that right now. So this thing just hit the streets. Right. And I've recently just cracked it open, and I'm so excited. And I want to thank James Beach for sending me a copy. And
cool.
And Louis,
we should tell listeners what you're holding up.
Yeah, I'm holding up Beyond the Black: The Story of Metal Church. It's a book, James R. Beach with Brian L. Naron.
I think so.
Like Baron, but Naron. Mm-hmm. And this is it's on NW Metalworks with an X music.com. So Northwest Metalworks music.com is where they can find this thing. And it's pretty so far it's pretty solid, and it's championing you guys as one of the founders, one of the many founders of metal from the Northwest. And I'm excited about it, and I just like holding it because the cover feels like velvet or something. It's
it's textured.
Yeah, it's my just stuff like this makes me happy. Oh, I just turned it open to Operation Rock and Roll stuff. That's
hey,
cool.
You were there.
I know, it's cool.
We're jumping
man.
all fast. We got the fast forward button smashed.
So listen, let's talk about this book. Now what was your, I mean, I know some of the answers to the questions I'm asking, but for our listeners and people watching, your involvement, your stamp of approval, who contacted you, who interviewed you, and how many sit downs did you do?
The author did. The author, both those guys did. So I did a couple sit downs with them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So you were on board.
Just about 2 or 3 of them, and then some phone stuff. Yeah. I have not read it yet. I have not read it. I got a copy of it. And I'm looking at it going, should I read? Because it's weird. I can't read a book that's about me. I mean, I get it. Yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. It's kind of like, okay, when you make a record, you don't keep listening to it after it's done.
Right.
You know, it's like, but yeah, I haven't really read it, but I do know the guys and I know everybody they talk to. So I stand behind it as far as I know, you know, in case, you know.
Well,
you had to feel pretty honored that there was some interest that someone.
Oh, dude, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's complete. It's like, why would anybody want a book about that?
Oh, you know? Come on.
Well, no, seriously. You know, it is when you're in it, you don't feel it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, you don't know, you appreciate it, and I'm flattered beyond belief, but it's still weird. That's why, like, trying to read it's going to be a little bit strange.
Yeah, I get that. I think everyone would understand that. Why would you read it? It's your story, and it's you talking, and unless they just threw all the interviews away and started Yankee Doodle Dandy, walk down the street,
right?
You know, but it's not that. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, no, they did a really good book on Queensryche as well. They were kind of documenting the Northwest bands.
So these guys are fucking cool.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah.
These guys are hip to and proud of their scene there. That's really that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and they do it for love. I mean, because it's not going to be a huge #1 New York Times bestseller. They did it because they love the music and they're proud of their scene, like you said.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know, Metal Church maybe didn't sell 50 million albums or anything like that. Worthy of telling a story? Fuck yes. Because
apparently,
well, it's a journey,
and it's still going. That's the thing. It's still going. So that's what's interesting to me is Metal Church has been around for so long and through various incarnations, and Kurdt has seen the ups and downs, the ins and outs. He's been in the band, out of the band. The band has dealt with its share of tragedy. And your latest album is so strong. It's just incredible that you're still. Dude. So the book, I mean, if ever there was a band worthy of a book, certainly it's you guys. You've had a long run and you're at the top of your game right now, as far as I'm concerned. That new album is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thanks very much. We were pretty happy with the way it came out. It was kind of something that we didn't want to overthink it, but we knew we didn't want to go backwards in as much as, you know, trying to make it something. We figured that it would have to be more aggressive and more thrashy, back to our roots in that respect. So we kind of really approached it that way, you know, and just kind of, I didn't want to overthink it. And because it's real, I'm sure, Jason, you understand this. When you're in the business for a while, you have a real tendency to think about business rather than music. And it's kind of hard not to do that. You know, you have to think of, well, what are the fans going to like? What are the, you know, think that kind of thing. But for me, it was more like, let's just make a record that we like, that we're proud of, and let the chips fall where they may.
I want to talk about, I mean, we're talking about the new Metal Church record.
Congregation of Annihilation.
Correct.
It's a family show.
Yes. Yeah. Which I love that title track so much. I mean, Mark Lopes is just fucking, his voice is beautiful. Yeah. It's so solid.
Well, yeah, and that was a lot of the reason that we went in that direction, because we had that kind of voice available. And we just, when we decided to do it, it was like, okay, well, we're not going to do the light side of this. We're going to do the heavier side of this.
I was gonna bring that up because we had Mark on the show, and he basically went through the dominoes and was kind of like, well, you know, Kurdt gave me a record that I was, what do I say? I have to go back to Kurdt and go, are you sure? Because, you know, and he said that he worked on a few things, but when you heard those and you saw maybe, I don't know, the look on his face, or maybe he said something that you actually said, let me regroup. And you came back and you had all this thrashy, heavy, you know, and it was less of the less bluesy or less rock style.
Less more of the hard rock. Yeah. Because as far as, and certainly, and I'll fully admit this and not in any way ashamed of it at all, but Metal Church became, later on, more, by today's standards, much more of a hard rock band, because things got so heavy, things got so dark and so, that kind of thing, that we were over here on the lighter side of things, because that's not me. I have no interest in that.
That's fine.
So it was like, we got melodic, especially with the Mike Howe era stuff. We got a lot more, melodic. I mean, it was metal by the 80s and 90s standards, but by today's standards, we were hard rock, which is perfectly fine with me. But now, if we were going to continue, we definitely had to make it a little more aggressive. So
Jason brings up a point that I was going to make. When we had Mark on the show, he basically kind of said, you brought in some songs and he was comfortable with, maybe half of them. And then there was another half where he's thought, well, they're a little more rock and roll-y and I'm more of a metal guy. And then from his perspective, he has to feel a little apprehensive about being honest with you about that. And then from your perspective, I thought it was really cool that you were willing to sort of accommodate this newcomer and say, you know what, we're trying to create something here. We're trying to make a cohesive whole. And you might have a point. And it sounds to me like that's exactly what happened. Do you recall?
No, that is exactly what happened. It was when, because I just started writing new Metal Church stuff. I got in metal mode. And so some of it was a little heavier. And he came back and I was like, you make it yours. I don't want to just do a continuation of Mike Howe era or the Ronnie Monroe era or anything. Let's turn a page. Let's make it a new chapter. Let's not chase the past. Let's just do something new. But as it turns out, it was new old. So we got back to the thrashing roots, and so it was like, this makes sense. Hey, take the ball and run with it. Go ahead. And it was just, and if there's something from a producer standpoint that made me go, oh, I don't like that, I was happy to say it, and we worked on it, and we just developed and created a new chapter, turned a page.
Are there songs on the album that started as one thing and ended up what we hear on the album, or did any songs that were sort of unworkable get pushed aside in favor of some brand new ones?
That's exactly what happened. Had a pile of songs. We kind of sifted through them. Mark worked with these, and these he was feeling. These he wasn't. Okay, we need a few more. Okay, but I see where we're going now. I see a direction. It's like, okay, let's go. Let's go down that road.
Gotcha.
So it was really fun, and it was also a challenge for me because I hadn't really written in that way quite a while, and it was like, I wonder if I can still feel that and do that. And it didn't take long. It's like, oh, I remember this. Getting hand cramps and stuff.
Were you writing with the unit that you have, with the lineup that you have? Were you getting in a room and slugging it out, or were you?
Oh no, I wrote here. I wrote here and sent off demos.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and then came back and let's make this go forward twice and did the arrangements that way, the remote kind of thing.
Do you use programmed drums that just suggest what might work?
Oh,
here?
absolutely. I just here's how the beat goes. Now I'll send you a track with a click track and make the drums your own, make the bass your own, and I let Rick do all the leads, do whatever you want, because I don't want it all out of my head. I can come out of my head to start with, but in order to have it sound like something that's a little more, have different input and influences, let everybody put their stamp on it.
The unit you have now is fucking so strong. I can't. I'm just I'm tripping out on how so tight and so solid the drums are. Like what? It's like inhuman. I mean, I watched the guy play it. I'm like,
right.
Okay, well, so that's just crazy. That's just crazy that it's like,
got lucky.
How does a band become, this is rhetorical, better, whatever. I'm not saying, this is your best thing ever. It might be. I don't know. But anyway,
I don't know.
It's fucking great.
It's strong.
So it's hard to compare when you hear something like this, because I'm speaking for myself, I am not the hard rock and metal fan to be so excited about, you know, the new Iron Maiden,
Right.
the new Judas Priest. I know I'm going to get hung for this, but
no, I'm right there. I'll be hanging right next to you on that one, because
it's really hard for me. I did press play on Panic Attack, the new Judas Priest single, and I liked it. I was like, "Oh, this is good. This is good. This is really strong."
Yeah.
And I shock myself sometimes. Is like, "Oh, what is this all about?" And I click on it, and I'm like, "Damn, that's killer!" You know.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen very often anymore.
Not at all. I'm not excited about anything new. I just, you know,
I know, right?
Surround myself with my oldies and stick with it.
Vinyl. I'm going to pull out my UFO.
Yes.
My
Yeah.
Yes.
My Uriah Heep and time travel, you know, go ahead. And then, there's a few things from the 80s that I still like, and a little bit news. There's a few new things out there, but yeah, I'm right with you. It's like, okay, you know, here's one of my favorite bands. They're putting out the Child Support Tour album. You know, they have to keep going because they're in trouble. And it's like, it's not inspired or anything. I'm like, ooh, hey, more power to them. But yeah,
I've said this before on the show related to other bands, but I think Metal Church falls into the same conversation. So I'm just going to say it here. I've told people that, you know, as far as the classic metal bands that I grew up on, I think Judas Priest, I think Saxon, and now I'm going to say Metal Church are putting out just super strong stuff. And I've said it before, if you stopped listening to those bands in the late 80s or whatever, when they kind of passed their quote unquote classic period, you're doing yourself a huge disservice, because those bands in particular, and I did add Metal Church into that category, putting out some really, really relevant stuff that if you're a fan of that stuff, you're going to be a fan of this stuff.
And that's great. Yeah, like Saxon is great. I mean, I love that band. Always have.
Yeah.
You know, and they're still at it and slugging it out and making great records. So is Accept.
Yeah, I was just going to say Accept.
There you go. There's another one.
And the Metal Church, much like, and I think I brought this up when we had Mark on, I said that the same thing is happening to Metal Church now with this new lineup and the new life to Accept. Right. You know, it's a different lineup. They got this. Wolf Hoffman is the only OG anymore,
right?
And so it's kind of, he's got these guys, and it's like, what is happening right now?
But it's working. You know? They made good decisions. They made good choices. You know,
that's right. That's right.
And that's the key. Rather than you can tell. I mean, you always could tell when a band or an artist in whatever genre is not really trying. When they're just kind of going through the motions, you can always tell.
Yeah.
You know, you can tell.
Well, and I think that you're open-minded. I think that Wolf is open-minded. I think that, you know, the OGs and Saxon are open-minded. You know, Rob and Ian are open-minded, you know, and they have new blood and new life and youth in the band.
Absolutely.
As well. So that's some of it as well.
That's a great point. And I think it's, I think one of the reasons that it works is because the elder statesmen of those bands are open to, like we just talked about, Kurdt was open to accommodating Mark with his vocal styles and his comfort zone.
Yes.
I think we just talked about Saxon. We had Nigel Glockler on the show, and he said, you know, Brian Tatler comes into the band, and he's about their age. They're the same age, but he's fresh blood. He's new ideas, that sort of thing. Yep. Accept much the same thing. So yeah, I think maybe one of the reasons that some of these more classic metal bands that are still putting out great albums are still putting out great albums is because they've had a shot of fresh blood, new energy, and maybe just some new ideas come into the mix.
Well, exactly. And I think it's also, it starts when you start doing it, and the feedback starts, not necessarily from the public, but you start putting out, it's going, hey, this is really good. The next thing, oh, this is good too. And it starts building, and then you start building that momentum, and you start getting your confidence. You know, and I think that's a big part of it too, rather than just like, well, it's okay, let's put it out and cross our fingers, you know.
Remind us how you got involved with Mark.
Mark, we had crossed paths, I think, at festivals and things like that with Ross the Boss.
Right.
And he had become friends with Steve instead. And we didn't really, when Mike passed, for a while, I didn't think there was, do I even want to keep doing this? I don't know. Let's see. But I had written a bunch of music, for Mike and sent it to Mike right before, and we had started the process of working on a record. And he and passed, and I was like, so there was months where I was like, not feeling it. Then I started, maybe we should just finish it up, put a record out and see if we could find somebody. We didn't want to do a big, huge national search for a new singer and all this we just kind of wanted to do it under the radar in case it didn't work, Right. So then there wasn't any big, have to explain what's going on. So he was already in our orbit, as I like to put it. So a couple other people were as well, but he came in and, he already knew those guys. So,
so
and it just worked.
He had rubbed elbows with Mike then too. At said festival.
I think so,
at some of those festivals you guys were doing with Mike. I'm sure that Mark and Mike, were fans of each other, if you could say.
Mark was definitely a fan of the band, from the beginning.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So he was a big part of that. But that was how it. It was real easy, and it just kind of fell into place because I don't think I was in a place where I really wanted to really have to work at it, getting something going. I was just kind of seeing if, the stars would align to make this happen. And it kind of just fell into place very naturally. So that was one of the reasons I kept going, because if it started being a big, difficult fight and a struggle and just, come on, let's do this.
Right.
No, I'm out. Yeah.
So I keep trying to imagine the look on your face the first time you press play on the first few tunes that Mark sent you with a vocal track on there.
Yeah, right.
Were you just, holy fucking shit?
I was like, okay, is this the new metal church sound? The new old metal church sound? Or am I going down a road that I'm going to regret here? Not that it was bad, but it took a minute, and then then all of a sudden, light bulb went on. It's like, no, this is the way to go. This is, if we're coming back after all this and we're going to have singer number 4, we better mean it,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We better have that, slug it in. So I was like, okay, let's go.
Well, he has the conviction. I mean, he's not fucking around.
Yeah.
And he is and he's a talent, being that he can build shit with his hands, and he's a graphic artist of sorts, and he can make videos and sets, and he's techie, and he records his own vocals, and he doesn't need anyone to tell him that your mic sounds like shit, and he's the man.
Yeah.
So it's the guy that made it easy for you to.
The whole thing happened very naturally. The whole thing just kind of happened the way it was supposed to.
You arrived.
I think one of the reasons I love it so much is, and I don't want to oversimplify this, and I almost hate to draw comparisons, but I loved the early Metal Church records with David Wayne singing. And I think Mark has that David Wayne style
without a doubt
to his.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why the set, when we were playing live, was a lot of that old stuff that we hadn't played for years, because Mark could do it because Mark could do it.
Yeah, he could. Yeah. I hear a lot of David Wayne. So anybody that hasn't heard the new Metal Church record, if you're a fan of that early stuff with vocalist David Wayne, you're in for a treat with Mark Lopes, because he definitely channels a lot of David Wayne. But he's his own man. I don't want to make it sound like he's
no. He definitely is. Yeah, but he has that same thing.
I was going to say, that's good. I was going to say it's David Wayne, but it's also, there's, 3, 4, 5 other singers that have that David Wayne element, that tone, and that ferocious velocity, as well as dynamic, and
the melodic aspect too.
Yes, because David Wayne sang melodic, and Mike had that for days. Mike had that just all over the place, the melody and everything. but he could hit the gas pedal and screech as well. So,
yep. And that was one thing that's crucial to me in anything I do. It's got to be melodic. There's got to be, you can have the grittiest, nastiest sounding voice, but you got to hit notes. There's got to be notes. There's got to be some kind of melody going on. There's got to be a chorus. There's got to be something going on. If it's not, I'm not interested. That's why I don't really listen to a lot of the modern metal screamo stuff, because I'm just like, wow, the riff come in great, and then all of a sudden, and I'm like,
what do you think about? Let's talk about that for 2 seconds. Let me give it. Let's give it a chance. Think about. You say new metal or whatever box some journalist put some kind of hard, loud music into.
Right.
When the singer is singing this really catchy melody, and then the next section, the dynamic changes, and it's like a whole new song, and it turns into it's all gutturals and everything. And then it goes back to this catchy little ditty, and then the next song on that record, whoever the band is, it doesn't Joe Blow and the Blue Footballs. It doesn't matter who the fuck it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the next section is that melodic, not pretty, but just a catchy poppy kind of thing. And then you already know where they're going after that. They're going back to the vomit.
Right. Exactly.
They got the pop groove, then they got the funk with like a cool melody over it, and it's catchy, and you're like, hey, wow, all right. And then all of a sudden, it comes right. I'm like, what kind of music is this? Who told them it's okay to just, this is the new style?
Right.
Thoughts? What I mean, when that was happening,
I don't care for that. I mean, if they're doing something,
do you think it's confusing sounding? Just as
I don't know. I wonder sometimes if it's just my nature or the fact that I'm old and I really don't want to hear it. It's like
that's all fair. That's all fair.
It's like when you start becoming, I don't know, there's kids today and what they're listening to, and back in our day we had to play guitar, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just I don't. So I'm sure it's some of that, and I'll happily admit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I like music, and I don't really care for that sound, because to me it doesn't really sound like anything that anybody had to work to achieve. It just sounds like they have a lot of, and it's like that just doesn't sound like music to me.
Yeah, but when it's intermittent, I guess is my question.
Well, then why put it in the middle of something that you have melodic on there, just to to be cool? Or for me, this is a taste thing. I
you're
like
not
singers,
slagging
man.
anything. Yeah,
I like singers, man. I like guys who can do their stuff well. I like listening to musicians. But then there's this thing, like I'm a big fan of the first generation punk stuff, which wasn't a skill thing, but it was more of an attitude. So I do get where the appeal is, and I think a lot of it has to do with, every band or every new generation or new thing wants to one up the people before them.
Yeah.
So they want to try to get a little more aggressive. Oh, yeah, no, they're a bunch of pussies. Now listen to what we're doing. We're heavier and meaner. And then the next guy takes it farther. We're more satanic than you guys. And, and this stuff. I mean, it's just not my bag. So I listen to what I listen to, and I like what I like. They can have fun over there.
I think that
my thing.
I think that you being as open-minded and musically liberal is fantastic, and it shows in your writing. It shows in your taste of why and what you're doing with whatever project you're working on.
Right.
Please.
Well, I love music. And there's two kinds. There's good and bad. It's like it's somewhere in between. There's stuff that is like I like all kinds of stuff. I'll listen to ABBA and the Sex Pistols in one day,
Sure.
But for different reasons. I'm a big prog head. I'll listen to Yes and get something completely different out of that than I will if I put on, I can't even think of The Damned or whatever,
Sure.
But I'll listen to it for different reasons and get something different out of it.
Yeah.
And it's all cool in its own right, and there's
I think
all different kinds of stuff.
I think anyone that listens to music because they love music is the same way. It's the people that listen to music just casually as background music that don't, like I've told Jason before, and I've told my wife, you know, there's certain records that sound better to me on Saturday morning when I'm cooking breakfast, and there's other music that sounds perfect to me on Monday morning on my way to work, and there's other music that sounds perfect to me when I'm camping at the lake. And you know,
that's exactly right.
it's the context, it's the environment, and it all creates a mood. And
absolutely,
people that love music love that it creates a mood. Other people, I don't think, get that.
Yeah, I don't understand people that just casually listen to music. Like I'm the worst if like at a gathering or something and somebody puts on music that I like and people are talking over it. I'm like, shut up.
Exactly.
Pay attention. This is important.
Exactly.
You know? And it's like, and they're looking at me like I've got three heads. I'm like, what? No. You just put on this classic song and you're not listening.
Right. It's like, what's the point of putting it on if you're not going to listen to it?
Right. And then I have to go stop that people don't listen the same way you do. You know?
Exactly.
That's the point. That's the music nerds gathering.
Yeah.
That's your antenna is going and everyone else is like, what's this? What's happening to this person right now?
Music is not for the background. No.
Right.
It's not. I mean, some is certainly, but you know, that's I wouldn't even know what it would be if it's in the background. Then I don't know. It's not Taylor Swift or anything like that.
If it's in the background, it's a McDonald's commercial. We're not
exactly. Exactly.
So I wanted to ask you, I grew up in San Antonio, and I used to listen to 99.5 KISS FM. And of course, there was a DJ named Joe, the Godfather Anthony. And my first,
I remember him.
My first experience of hearing Metal Church was thanks to Joe. And it was your first record. He used to play Gods of Wrath and the Deep Purple cover, Highway Star. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you guys, like many other metal bands of the time, which would have been early 80s, mid 80s, gained a pretty strong foothold in San Antonio. Do you have any recollection of being received in San Antonio?
Texas, but San Antonio in particular. Yeah. I mean, the first time we went through Texas, we were shocked. We were shocked. We were like, really? There's this many people here? For us, we were just starting out. First record was still, I don't even think we were on Elektra yet at that point. Yeah. So we've did great in Texas, always. Yeah. And it's one of our favorite places to play. So
yeah, I know you built an audience there, and I just didn't know if it was one of the first places and then it kind of spread from there, or if it was, one of the first markets in a handful of markets where you found a connection with an audience and a DJ.
I think it was probably more the first area regionally where we were shocked that this particular region was really hip to what we were doing. And really, that was the first one.
Yeah. And you're a long way from home at that point. You're from Washington and we're in Texas. It doesn't get much farther away than that.
Yeah, especially back then, it was even farther.
Exactly right.
Well, Texas is giant as well. So you could go on tour for a week or 10 days and not play the same city. Absolutely. And play in a metropolis.
Well, that's right. And one of the favorite things that we saw on the walls of the dressing rooms is, I hate this part of Texas, and we were in England, or something, because it was all the bands that have toured so much. If they've gone through Texas, you're in Texas forever, because it is so huge, and it's great. But,
so do you think that that on that first tour, was your first tour, was it with Omen? Were you packaged with Omen? That's what I thought. And I talk about I was so giddy to be asked by your guys that wrote this book, Beyond the Black, on shelves now, metalheads, to just ask me about my story and how I just kind of we befriended, and it was what do you recall about Houston and Dallas and Austin and Corpus Christi and San Antonio, and those were probably your main shows, unless you did El Paso on the way in.
No, we didn't do I don't think Metal Church has ever played El Paso. I don't.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think we ever have. Not that I'm aware of.
I have a feeling
So
you
it was
guys
always just down the road, you know.
I have a feeling you guys would do very well there.
Yeah, could be.
Passes or metal.
Yeah, the fact that I mean, it was more of just kind of confirmation, and you know, at that time, and I'm sure you can relate to this, what was going on musically at the time, you felt you were part of something.
Mm-hmm.
You part of a movement, you were part of, which doesn't happen now because everything's so segmented because of the internet. If you're into this music, you're over here. If you're into this music, you're over here, where there's no galvanizing sound for this generation, unfortunately. So we were part of something. So when you actually saw that happening and you found, oh, my people, you know, other people that were like you.
The internet turned it into high school.
Yeah. It really did.
Got the freaks over there, got the nerds over there, got the jocks over there,
the burnouts. Yeah.
The internet turned music scenes into like high school. My God.
Yeah, exactly. But it was an amazing time actually, and you know, we haven't had anything like that. I think the end of that, the sound of a generation, or the sound of a particular era, ended in the 90s with the whole grunge thing. You know, and I think that kind of ended as the internet came in. Then everything's just a little bit of, there's no scene, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing going on. And I think kids now, I feel bad for them because they missed that. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of a lot of the Seattle sound, as it were, i.e. grunge. I'm a fan. I mean, some fucking amazing songs were written and are in my collection.
Absolutely, but that was the last time there was a scene.
Yeah, you're not talking about whether you like it or not, but as far as like what you were still trying to continue at that point when the 90s came around, like with Hall of Flame, you were writing heavy hard rock songs that were tinged with metal riffage here and there, and you were still Kurdt Vanderhoof from Metal Church.
Right.
Couldn't you just walk down the street? You're fucking from out there. You couldn't, hey, you kids cut this shit out so I can
stop
play
that. Hey, no. We're having none of this. Yeah.
Hey,
no. Stop.
No, I'm not the guy going, you kids get out of my yard.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, hey, I'm trying to play my guitar over here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jason, you alluded to earlier, and I didn't mean to cut off the segment about the book. If you want to go on about the book, or you have something else about it, please. Well, but you did mention Operation Rock and Roll.
Yeah. Which unfortunately, Kurdt was doing Hall of Flame at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let's talk about, you just kind of opened I hope it's not a wound. We'll get back to the book because we can. Let's talk about what was the last tour you did in the 80s with Metal Church before it turned into Hall of Flame for you and Metal Church continued?
Yeah,
let's talk about that little handing of the baton, but you producing and writing still.
Well, what happened is we were doing a European tour. We did the U.S. and Europe with Metallica on the Master of Puppets tour. Then we did a couple of shows in England with Anthrax, and we played the Hammersmith with them. That was the last show of the tour. But I had realized during the making of The Dark that the studio, and I just suddenly became, the light bulb went on. It's like, this is how you make records. We did the first one. We just went in the studio and played. We didn't know what we were doing, you know? So this time we had signed with a label, and we were on Elektra, and we had a producer for the first time. And so the whole process begun. And that's when I went, oh, okay, I see what's going on. It's like, I want to learn how to do this. So when we went on the road, it was fine. Love the shows, but I get and still do get insanely bored on the road. The shows are great, but as you well know, there's a lot of time to kill. And
23 hours.
Usually, yeah, exactly, yeah. And it's like, and you're tired. It just was like, I just realized that I wanted to do that, and I just being out there, and I just was like, not right now. I wanted, there's something else going on. I just needed to do that. So I stepped back and I wanted to learn how to make records. And I still love songwriting and I love the creative process, where on the road, I just get bored. And, it's just like, unless you're drinking, partying all the time, which, was starting to get a little old. It wasn't completely, I wasn't done with that yet at that point, but I just found that my direction, I found I was taking a different path. So, that's when I said, guys, I really got to do this. I'll write with you and work with you in the studio behind the scenes, and that's great. I'll help you do that, and that's wonderful, And so that's what I did. Then Hall of Flame happened completely by accident. We were literally sitting in one of the little taverns in Aberdeen, Washington, where Metal Church is originally from. Yeah, I'm the other Kurdt from Aberdeen. And
right.
So, yeah, it's like, we were just sitting there, and it was some friends that were kind of, we were from the same era, and they knew, and other bands, local bands, back when there was tons of local bands in a town. There was just, everybody, there was, 3 or 4 bands for every high school. And we were just sitting there, and we all looked around and said, wow, none of us are in bands anymore. One of the guys, the original singer, was one of the singers in the bands in high school when we were doing cover bands and playing dances and stuff when you're just learning to play. And we, hey, we should go over to Brian's place right down the road. His band is down there. Let's go play and go jam. And we did. And all of a sudden the band started. It was kind of by accident. So there was no plans for me, a new band after that. It was just about 6 months to a year after I was out of Metal Church, still writing and working with them. I was putting together my own first studio and doing all that. Then the Hall of Flame thing just kind of happened. And it was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, what do we really want to do? And it's like, I just like hard rock. I just like melodic hard rock.
Sure.
I really don't want to do the same thing again. And so that's how that happened. And we made some demos and stuff like that. We ended up getting signed to IRS. And then lo and behold, we went out and found good management, and they really liked it. And they put us out on the road with ZZ Top.
Yeah, this record is strong. I'm holding up "Guaranteed Forever" by Hall of Flame. It sounds like you got hit by a truck. You know what I mean? Like you weren't looking to be hit by a truck, and here comes by way of a record deal, right? It's like, right, oh yeah, these absolutely. Songs are cool. Holy shit, you want to put this out?
Right, yeah. And then we got Bruce Allen Talent managing us out of Vancouver, who managed Loverboy, BTO, Bryan Adams, and all this stuff. And he was a friend of Miles Copeland at IRS Records. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, okay, here we go. Hang on.
Wow.
And when the Black Crowes got booted off, he made a call and put us on that for, about 10 days. And then we came into Texas and we're touring with Blue Oyster Cult. And so it was just like, wow, okay, great. Then we got home. Okay, let's start working on the second record. And then the slow decline, just kind of like that. So we wrote 2 albums worth of material that we demoed. We never got going again. And then things fell apart. And then, and then, so that's why we're doing this now with Hall of Flame. It literally was, we found, we have all these old songs. We have 2 albums worth of material that we should just at least document, for no other reason. So we decided to do it. And the original singer was into it, sort of, and then he had to back out. And then we went, there's a whole bunch of songs here that when Brian, the bass player, and I were trying to continue the thing after the thing kind of fell apart, we was like, no, let's try it again. We found another singer, and we wrote a bunch of songs. And actually, Kirk Arrington was in the band for a while.
Oh,
and, yeah. And so we wrote a bunch of stuff and just did the whole, Ghetto Blaster band room recordings just to finish stuff. And we found it. We saved all that stuff when we listened to it. So we had all the stuff that we had written for the second album. That fell apart. So we had all those songs. And then we had another batch of songs with Kirk Arrington and the singer that we're using now, which is Scott Nutter. And we had a bunch of those songs. You know what? We've got to finish these. So we picked the songs and got Scott back in the band. He was all into doing it. And we started working on these songs, and it started really happening again. And it turned out to be a great record. Passed it on to Rat Pack, and they loved it. And so now it's a thing.
Wow.
Again. So the new album is coming out in 1st of April.
So your label mates with yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And also with my prog band too. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you found a home.
What's the Hall of Flame
Absolutely.
record? What's the title of the Hall of Flame record?
Amplifier.
Amplifier. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And it's straight up just, if you like AC/DC and the Cult and Led Zeppelin and the first Montrose record, if you like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
If you don't like that, I don't know why you're listening.
If you don't like that, go away.
Oh, God.
No, but that's what it is, and it's just basically the Hall of Fame stuff. That's what I write when I'm not thinking about anything. If I just sit down and play guitar and start writing, that's what comes out.
Yeah.
Because you're a fucking rocker.
Ted Nugent riffs. Yeah.
You're
Ted
a
Nugent
rocker.
riffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ace Frehley leads and Ted Nugent riffs and just the real meat and potato stuff. And I just love it. And it's never left. But it just, this whole version of Hall of Flame, just same kind of thing. It just kind of happened by accident. We were just going to, let's record this stuff right, because with technology, you can do it. Let's get this stuff done. And all of a sudden, when Scott came into the band and we rewrote some of the stuff, it's just like, wow, this is really good. I really like this. And then it just kind of went from there. It's like, let's do this. And we went, okay, we're doing this, So we've shot a few, 3 videos we did back in October. And so that should be coming out as well. So it's going to be a real thing. So,
All right.
yeah, I'm really excited about it.
You're busy.
Yeah. Sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I wanted to ask you about your feelings on MTV, because when The Dark came out, you guys had a pretty successful video with Watch the Children Pray.
Right.
And that album and that time frame also sort of coincided with your exit from the band.
Right.
So was there anything about, and you were also on Elektra Records at the time, massive label. Was there anything about the biz that was kind of crushing you, that was sort of led to your departure?
Well, that didn't necessarily lead to my departure, but it was a real like come to Jesus moment when you realize what the word recoupable means.
Oh my God.
You know what of I speak. Yes.
Well, you're about to tell a story that I tell the kids around the campfire.
Absolutely. Well, we initially signed, when we put the first album out on Ground Zero Record, it was a local guy, who had nothing but the best intentions, I believe, and I will still say that. We put it out independently. We got picked up by Elektra. We were told that our contract was negotiated and that we was okay to sign. It wasn't. We signed away everything.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was one of those classic stories, just give the kids the beer and the chicks and put them on the bus and let them play rock stars, and we'll throw money at them, and we'll, here you go. Yeah, no, here's a video. Don't worry that it cost you $65,000 in 1984 dollars, and we'll spend $120,000 on the record. Yeah, it's all good. Here you go. There's some salary. Here you go. And when we got back from the first European tour, I was like, wait a minute, I'm broke. I had to go get a day job.
Yeah.
After I just toured around the world. I'm like, hey, wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've probably had a similar. And then that was like, all right. And that coupled with the fact that I really found I really wanted to learn to make records. I really wanted to get in production. I really wanted to learn how to do that. I was like, I'm not cool with this, and then that lesson learned, about how the old music business used to work.
Yeah.
And you never made any money unless you sold a buttload of records because you were so far in debt, those kinds of things. And it was just like, oh God, what a disappointment. What a letdown. Yeah. It's like, oh man, this is corrupt.
Well, and it's common.
I am not the only one. Everybody's probably got a story like that.
Yeah, it's
to
almost,
whatever varying degrees.
Unfortunately, it's almost at the core of the business.
Well, there's stories about CCR and Black Sabbath, and it just goes and goes and goes. I think the story I heard one time, it might be in Ozzy's book, where it was an old, guy that was kind of managing them or something. He got him a deal and took him to the studio, and they each got like $100. And Ozzy says, and $100 in 1970 is badass.
Yeah, that's right. Especially when you didn't have anything before. Yeah,
I got to buy him a new pair of shoes, man. I was better dressed than my dad. You know,
Right.
I was doing better than anyone in my family, and it was $100 that lasted a few days, I'm sure.
Of course, yeah, exactly. Well, and that was part of it. And again, I had no real intentions of doing another band, but when the Hall of Flame thing started kind of just happening, it was just kind of for fun. And it was like, and we were all on the same page musically going, yeah, I don't want to be in another metal band. Let's just play some rock and roll. Stuff you like,
Were you able to negotiate the IRS deal?
For the most part, yeah. Okay. I went in there with knowing what I'm knowing. And we had management at that time. We were getting management, and I said, look, this is what I'm not doing this time. I knew what to look for, right. And it was a record deal from 1990. So, it was still heavily favored, but, I knew how it worked. So I knew what not to do. I knew how to not give your publishing away. I knew how to do a lot of those things. So, again, and then we ended up getting dropped because nothing was happening. We tried and we couldn't get anything moving, so even after we kind of took off and then the slow decline, but, but at the same time, it was a good thing because I knew I still wanted to play music.
Yeah.
I probably wanted to get more involved in music than if I would have just stayed in metal church because I would have been on the road so much.
Right.
Yeah, people ask me all the time, so do you feel bad that you guys didn't make it like Metallica because you were right there? And well, yeah, but I don't know. It takes a special person to be cut out for that kind of fame, that kind of life, and I don't know if I'm that guy.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I look at it and I talk to, you would, talk to Lars and stuff because he was, we knew each other in San Francisco before I moved back and put it together. So it takes a special kind of person to go for, they earned everything they have. They worked it and they worked for it. But I don't know if I would have been comfortable with that. You automatically think you would be because when you're growing up, you want to be that guy. You want to be in Zeppelin and you want to be in Deep Purple and you want to be that. But when it starts really happening, it was a little off-putting for me.
Yeah.
Where I wasn't comfortable with it. It was like, ooh. Yeah. I don't know. And I really don't know how to really describe that. But, oh, your dreams are coming true. Oh, no.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then at the same time, I have found my way and I have found my place in it where I'm very comfortable.
I think people fixate on the fantasy of it, which is natural. We were Absolutely. All 15 years old at one time and we all wanted to be Gene Simmons at one time. Mm-hmm. But that, the demands on your time and your privacy, and I don't think people have any clue just how intrusive all that is and how manipulative it can be. You started off wanting to do one thing, and now, if you want the checks to keep coming in, you're kind of compromising your art, and it's a drag, and you're living out of a hotel, and you're never home. And I know it sounds like woe is me, but if you do it for 15, 20, 30 years or whatever, that's a grind, man. I don't care how many 5-star hotels you stay in. That is. Yeah,
exactly. And even when you're young, if you had any kind of relationship at home when you're starting off, it's over.
Yeah.
Because you were like, okay, so when does the tour end?
Never.
It doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, how do you tell your significant other that? When you're coming home? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a little bit tough.
Well,
those kinds of things,
There's a whole, and we're talking about, there's a certain level that we're talking about when I add these bombs to the fire.
Right.
when I say what I'm about to say. When you get to that, and it's relative to Metallica as it is to, pop stars and
Absolutely.
Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift and whoever. But when you've is it your fault that you've sold trillions of records and you're a tastemaker and a game changer and an influential personality? It's not really your fault because it's something that you built as a band or as an artist. And along the way, you have security. You have a team, an entourage. You have this thing, you're a brand.
Yeah.
More than a band. And you have to remind yourself how to be Metallica. And I believe that that's pretty well documented, that the guys in Metallica had to remind themselves, why do I still want to do this? I'm going crazy.
Yeah. Right.
I'm
being led around like this, you know.
And I'm not in the camp, so I don't know, but I'm just trying to understand this. Like, I'm looking in the fishbowl going, holy shit. So, and then after security, you hire therapists. So you have a therapist with you. And I'm not talking about really the movie. I'm talking about something you started the conversation with, is like, how do you handle that kind of fame?
Well, right. And it's,
obviously you have a coach. There's somebody helping you do this. Management, your security guy is your best and only friend, probably sometimes.
Yeah. If you get to that point, you know, I think a lot of it is it's kind of what we touched on. When it starts happening to you, it's not what you think it is. It's not that fantasy. It's business, and it's a big machine, and it's rolling, and you're suddenly feeling responsible for everybody on your crew, and you know, and everybody like this, all people that have latched onto it, you know, not in a bad way. It's just by the nature of the machine. You know, you suddenly you're in this position, and yes, you hire therapists to go, wait a minute, my dreams came true. Why am I so unhappy? I mean, you hear it all the time. The drugs and the alcohol, just it explains that, like, right out of the box. That's why. Because if you stay high and drunk and stuff like that long enough, you'll be fine. You know, but if you get a moment of clarity, you're like, this isn't what I ordered.
Yeah.
Outside, it looks like it, but inside, I don't feel the way I thought I would feel when I became a rock star. You know?
That's full circle. That's full circle to I believe that artists of the caliber we speak of, they have to get reminded. And I think probably somebody who's really your friend, whether you're paying them to spend time with you, to remind you who you really are and get inside of there and help you stand up. It's important, and it's something that goes way overlooked, and I don't think it's talked about enough. Well,
I think one of the things that for me that I love, I mean, it took me a long time to come to terms with this, the new music business. You know, as soon as the internet took over, and you know, record companies were shutting off floors, and you know, the Napster thing, when everything changed, I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? It's over. This is what I love. What's going to happen? Like so many of us, I'm sure, you know, just like, this is good as it's over, man, you know, game over. And I just was like, wow. But what's happened is that the way things have shifted, it's kind of upside down now. But the way the new music business is, like, that's why I love working with Rat Pack so much, is that now it's direct artist to fans. You don't sell big, huge amounts of records anymore, but you get to do it. You still get to do it without the major label filter, without wondering who he lives, he dies is going to happen. You know, you get to make your own records. You can market yourself. The money isn't the same, but you can still do it. And that's why I love the new business, because it allows old guys like me, which I'll say veterans, you know, to still do it and be creative and be working with independent labels, because the whole thing now is mirrored with the bands that are doing it by themselves, are mirrored by record companies that are doing it by themselves. You know, the money isn't the same, but that's okay. You're doing it because you love to do it. Well, and now you put a record out to go tour. You don't go tour to promote the record. Now it's kind of backwards, you know? And so now it's about doing it for the love of music.
Yeah, man. Amen. That needs an amen right there.
Yeah.
It's important that I say this now. I feel like the amount of, because you kind of were I can do this now because it's like this now, but it just sounds like Ground Zero Records guy. It sounds like you can do this on, I mean, you're making your record and Rat Pack's putting it out. You're promoting your band and your tour, and you have an agent that put a tour together, and the more gigs you play, the more money the agent makes. It's like a lawyer, you know, if you win the case, we get paid. If you don't win the case, no one gets paid. It's fine. But it's kind of, what I'm getting at is it's DIY all over the place.
Yeah.
Everybody's DIY for this one goal, And if it doesn't quite get there, everyone's like, that's okay. That was fucking why we do this.
Yeah.
Right.
It was fun and you got to do it on your terms.
That's a huge thing. And when we're talking about looking back on like the days in the 80s when the band was taking off and you're looking at Metallica and stuff like that, I think the only way anybody can survive that is if they just go stop and they take control of their career, where they don't allow themselves to be controlled by the big label. They don't allow themselves to be controlled by management. They have people monitoring everything, where they're not being manipulated and being led around, okay, no, you're going to go tour over here. You're going to do this and you're going to do the being told. If you have the power to go, no, this is how we're doing it from now on, that would be a way forward in that capacity. But that's the way it is now at a much smaller level.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that, and that's for me, that works for me perfectly, because that's what I like to do, and if I can support myself and pay my mortgage and play my guitar all at the same time, win, and that's cool. I'm good with that, and if I put records out and people like it, people want to have me on podcasts and stuff like that, awesome.
Hey, we're winning too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're happy to have you, and we love the new record.
Oh, that's great. And Jason, I know I just saw now you're still Dangerous Toys is still playing, right?
Yeah, I'm in Houston tomorrow. We do some fly dates. We play, maybe this many shows a year. It's not
That's awesome.
We don't tour anymore. We just do fly dates and play around here a couple times a year.
Yeah,
it's great. And then the Watchtower thing, that just kind of came out of nowhere. It started with this guy, Christian Larson, who runs a festival in Houston called Hell's Heroes. Have you heard of this? Fantastic festival. It's been like 6 or 7 years running now, maybe.
Really?
And yeah, they've got Queensryche on it. And this is happening the end of March. And we're playing the same day as Queensryche, but they've got, like Sodom and bands like Candlemass.
Oh wow,
and all that kind of stuff too. And it's that kind of a festival, and it's as close to Keep It True that I think I've ever seen.
Oh wow,
it's as close to Keep It True as I've ever seen. They had Tom Warrior's like pretty much every hit, Triumph of Death, and Celtic Frost, Hellhammer.
Oh, right,
and he was able to headline 2 nights in a row and not play the same song twice.
Oh, cool.
So it's really cool that and they've got the weird prog stuff, and like they had Riot a couple of years. So it's power metal, and Exciter was on it last year. So
From
just
Canada, right? Yeah.
Everybody that you remember. So Queensryche is doing like the EP and the Warning.
Oh, really?
Even with the new lineup, of course, they do that all the time anyway.
Well, they're great now. Todd, Todd's awesome. Yeah,
that's another band that fits.
There you go.
The sprocket of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So
it's great.
Go ahead, Kurt.
Oh no, it's so cool that, because if we would have had the filter that we did back in the 80s, where it was the major labels, you had that filter and the he lives, he dies, okay, they're over 30. No, the kids are coming, we wouldn't be here. So, even though there's no big money and all those kinds of things, I love the new music business because, okay, my age, I still get to do this. There's nobody telling me you're too old to do this. And it's like, no, I know. But you can still do it. Queensryche gets to do it. The list goes on.
Yeah.
And it's great.
You're not the first person we've had on the show that says that, and I always find it interesting because it's all about perspective. You're at an age, I'm at an age, Jason's at an age where I don't think anybody's harboring any delusions of grandeur. We're not. We all know that our place in this world, and if you're creative, it's like, I want to still do my art and I still want to put it out there. But I want to do it on my terms, and I don't want to kill myself trying to do it. So
exactly,
if you can kind of hit that, that medium ground, and that's what today's model allows for, And so you're right in your lane, man. You're right.
Oh, I love it. I couldn't be happier. I'm in complete control of my career.
Yeah.
And
we have to ask you though, and I don't want this episode to get away without addressing the obvious. You've got a great album out right now, and obviously you had to cancel some tour dates because of your ongoing your back issue.
Old guy problems, yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. I told Jason earlier this year I was diagnosed with spinal stenosis, and
that's what I got. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So
Wow. Yeah.
And it's like I can't even sit in this chair much longer, and I can't go to a concert and stand on my feet for 3 hours, and I get all that. So my question on behalf of the listeners out there is, when might you resume the tour, and how is your overall health?
My overall health, other than just having a back problem, is great. I feel great. I'm healthy. I don't take any pharmaceuticals. I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I feel great, except I can't stand up for a long period of time. And I've been dealing with this for about 20 years. Yeah. And finally, it got to the point where the album came out. We did a couple trips to Europe, 3 or 4 different laps in the United States. We went to Australia, and it was like, guys, I got to stop. I wanted to see as much through to back up the album as I could. So I did, but it's like, I also don't want to have back surgery, and I don't need to. I'm in therapy now, and I'm in rehab my own rehab, meaning, inversion tables. I don't know if you've used that, if you got the back issue.
Not yet.
It helps like crazy, doing a lot of floor exercises, eating right, and the touring. I mean, it was, standing on stage for an hour and a half holding an 8-pound guitar, just like, and I was sitting down between shows, which was just like, so humiliating. It was like, I can fix this. And the main reason is that I know I can fix this. I'll never be 100%, but what I need to do is I need to stop doing that and take care of myself and go through however long the rehabilitation takes, so I can be, at least 90%, to go out and do this, so that's what I'm doing. It's going to take a while because I spent a lot of time just thinking it'll go away, and it didn't, right?
Guilty.
Yeah. And I still, that's all right. I can still carry this thing around, and like, no, you can't, I can't lift. I'm not supposed to lift anything heavier than a can of soup, so when I do work out, I have to work out completely differently, that I don't put any pressure on my spine. It's like I was traveling with an inversion table, and I would do that like before a show. I'd feel great, get things on the stretcher, then I'd go on stage, and by the time the show was over, I was this again. It would just negate the whole thing. It's like, hey, I've done as much as I can do. We did as much, touring as I'm going to do for this record. Stop. So in a couple months I'll be doing one-offs. And the touring is not only just the shows, but it's traveling, sitting in weird places in the RV or the van or however you happen to be doing it, and then you're sleeping in what could be really bad beds in hotels, and it's just this constant. It's like, okay, the touring stuff. In a month or two I'll be able to do a show here and there, which I plan on doing with Hall of Flame, but it's not going to really be any touring for a while until I can do it right, until I'm not going to injure myself anymore, and a lot of it is, like I was saying, is I let it go for too long. I just kind of ignored it. No, it'll be fine. I'll be fine. Really? Yeah. And it was like, oops, big mistake. So,
well, even in with this new, the way things are, it's kind of like, you didn't quite sell enough records to stay in the 8-star hotel every night. So you can't.
We're in Motel 5.
You can't. You can't really choose where you're
not
going.
Even 6.
Yeah,
right.
Where you're going to sleep. You don't get to choose where
That's
you're going to sleep.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
does it leave a light on for you, or no?
Right, exactly. It's like, yeah, exactly.
You're not touring with a mattress inspector.
No, we're not. It was like, so they put hotel rooms on the rider. That's part of the deal. We get 5 rooms, plus our fee, right? They're going to find the cheapest place to put you.
Yeah,
most of the time. Sometimes not necessarily. Sometimes you get treated great.
Yeah.
But we're at that level, like you said, Jason, that where you're, you can do it, but we're right in there in this, in the middle of the road. We're an international act, but we're not big, but we're not a bar band, so you're right in the middle. So those kinds of things play a factor. So,
when you're 20 years old, you don't give a fuck.
No, exactly.
20 years old, you're sleeping on a picnic table.
You know,
in
you
somebody's
give a shit.
backyard.
You're not
You're
even.
just happy to be out playing. You don't
Yeah,
care.
you don't even go back to the hotel when you're 20. You don't even go. You don't even make it. Oh, we had a hotel room. I didn't even know. Oh, it's gig
Really?
time. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just go use it, take a shower, and I'll
Sure.
be right back. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. It doesn't even.
completely different thing.
And then you're
Yeah, I know.
you're kind
sitting
of
on the bus now.
you're bulletproof back then, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
immortal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember that too, don't you?
Oh boy, I
Yeah.
remember it, and that still kind of creeps in. You know, again, like, yeah. So I got to do some work around the house. I'll move the furniture. You know.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Oh no, I live by myself. Well, somebody's got to do it, you know, and I just got to, it's like this constant thing. It's like, no, it may take 6 months to 8 months, maybe a year, but you have this condition, you have to deal with it, you know, because I was told by my doctors that, no, if you do this, this, and this, there's a really good chance you'll be okay. And I'm not into going under the knife. You know, I'm sure, you know, some people it worked great for, other people they're worse. So I was like, you know, if there's a chance that I can be better, I think I'll just take the time, you know, then I can work in the studio and make more records and write more songs. So,
So you have a studio, you do mastering, you're basically a producer engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yep.
What are there any records that you've made, you know, last year, like really recent that we might know of?
Oh yeah, the new Todd Michael Hall album's coming out.
Holy shit! Really?
Yeah. This is his second record I did with him.
Like a solo record?
Yeah, this is the second one. Yeah.
Is he from out there? How did you hook up with him?
No, he's in Michigan.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, we through Rat Pack Records. Yeah, he hooked me up with Todd. Yeah, he's an amazing singer. And that's just good old classic hard rock. I've done a few mixing things. I worked with a band called Grave Shadow. They did a couple songs. Yeah, and they're more along the lines of that symphonic kind of like Nightwish kind of thing.
Okay.
Worked with them a little bit. Just finished mixing and mastering an album for a band called One and Done. And I don't know quite when that's going to come out, but yeah. So yeah, I do that. And then in the meantime, I'm still working on the new Presto Ballet album, which is the prog rock obligatory double concept album, you know, because you got to do one. If you're in a prog band, you got to do that, you know, and that'll be coming out.
Presto Ballet. Is
Double
that your
eightfold, I hope.
Is that a prog band that you've been involved with for some time?
Yeah. This will be our 6th album. Yep.
Holy shit. I've seen that name, and I guess I knew and then forgot that was you. If
you like old Kansas and that kind of stuff, it's very, very 70s, a lot of Hammond organ, a lot of analog synthesizers and songs that go on forever and everything like that, you know, all that old classic stuff. Yeah. Wow. So check it out. It should be pretty fun. Yeah, it's pretty fun if you like that old stuff, that kind of
course.
Stuff. So,
yeah. Well, classic rock is constant for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't deny that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you earlier in the conversation, and we got sidetracked many times, which is great. But I was curious to know.
Welcome to the Talk Louder podcast.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You started the band. You started Metal Church basically in San Francisco, and then took it to Aberdeen. And my question to you is, what was the incentive to do that? Because it seems to me as a young as a young rock band, it seems you'd have more opportunities in San Francisco than Aberdeen, especially at that time.
Right. So what it was, I was in my first real band, which was a punk rock band called The Lewd. We were in Seattle. And so it's first generation punk. We relocated to San Francisco. Then after about a year and a half or so playing that scene, I kind of felt like, you know, I love this punk thing and everything, but at that point it started getting a little tired and I just didn't really see much happening future-wise with it. And then simultaneously, all of a sudden you hear these rumblings from England about the new Wobum, the new wave, you know, and Motorhead and Iron Maiden and, you know, Saxon and all. It's like, ooh, what's going on here?
Yeah.
You know, suddenly it was the punk attitude, you know, the aggression, but musicality and things like, oh, I'm in. So I left the Lewd and started putting Metal Church together in San Francisco. but everybody was still punk rock and new wave and didn't want to have anything to do with metal. So I had all the friends that I was in bands with in high school, like Kirk Arrington. We were basically stepbrothers. I went back up there and put it together with guys that I knew from the small town that I grew up in.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was just backwards, but that's why we came out of Aberdeen, because I was like, okay, I know a drummer up there. And then I ran into Duke, and through Kirk, he's a bass player. And then Craig Wells, he was a guitar player in another band, in the high school, and then he knew Dave from Yakima. And so I knew, and there wasn't a lot of drugs going on. So there was a lot of drugs and things like that going on in the punk rock scene, and trying to put a new band together with people that weren't strung out on anything. It was too difficult. So I knew people there, So.
Did you know Duff McKagan from the Seattle punk rock scene?
No, he came into it a little after we had left.
Okay.
But he was apparently, from what I understand, I mean, I've met Duff. From what I understand, he knew of the Lewd and all that kind of stuff, because we were kind of one of the first bands. There was a punk rock scene in Seattle, which was a lot of fun then. But
and what year was that? It was late
79?
Yeah.
79.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was 80. You were in San Francisco. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
And I just was thumbing through a little bit, not to be rude or anything, but I couldn't stop. And you were like off Market Street or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
right downtown.
And Ron Quintana was a big player with you and the guys you were kind of
there was
living with, which is where the name Metal Church comes from. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. There was Ron Quintana and a couple other people. We were like the few metal kids in the city. There was probably more metal going on out in the suburbs and stuff like that, but in the city itself, there was Ron Quintana and a few other people I'm thinking of, but that's where I met Lars. Yeah. And because he had come over from Denmark to visit his dad, who was in San Francisco at the time.
Okay.
So we used to party at the apartment I had, and that's where we used to start calling it the Metal Church, which was the apartment I had with two other people, and we would, get drunk and party all night and listen to all these import metal records. That's where and then people started calling the band that, and that's where the name came from.
Yeah. But you like, some of the characters were members of Anvil Chorus and Heathen and all of that Bay Area early metal that was heavily influenced by the new wave of British heavy metal.
Yep.
Which ultimately was pre-thrash.
Yep.
That came after Lars met James in L.A.
Right.
And then ended up coming back. Yeah, ended up coming back. That's like a rubber band kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like Aberdeen, SF, Aberdeen.
Yeah.
And Lars comes over. He's like SF, LA.
Yeah.
SF. Exactly. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it was all incestuous, and everybody knew everybody, and kind of a thing. Yeah.
And now out of those cats, the only one that still lives there is probably Ron.
Probably. I think he probably lives over in the East Bay, and probably doesn't live in the city anymore.
No, so, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think he lives in like out by Walnut Creek or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty nice out there, actually.
It's very nice out there. Yeah.
You mentioned obviously we've talked a little bit about Lars Ulrich, and you toured with Metallica, and I think I read somewhere at one point that the album, the Metal Church record, The Dark, was dedicated to Cliff Burton. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
I think it might say something on there about that, because he died just about that time that album was coming out.
Yeah, I looked on my record and I couldn't find any. That's why I'm asking you, because I didn't see any.
I don't really remember. I think we may have wanted to or something like that. I think, I don't know if things had already been pressed at that point.
Yeah.
But that's when they had asked us to go on the road with them, and being on the same label and everything was, was very convenient. But then we heard about the accident, and that happened, and then it was postponed for a bit, but we still went out. So
what do you remember about Cliff specifically?
I was going to say, do you remember where, and to add to that, do you remember where you were when you heard about the accident?
Yeah. We never toured with them or really did anything with them when Cliff was in the band. This was all afterwards when they got Jason.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I knew I had met Cliff when he was in a band called Trauma.
Yeah.
I remembered that. And I had, kind of when we did, I think the only thing we did with them, we played a New Year's Eve show at the San Francisco Civic. We played with Megadeth opened. It was us and Exodus and Metallica. And Cliff was still in the band then, and we had chatted a little bit, but we didn't really know him. But I had, we'd been in the same scene, so to speak. So, but then I had went back up, and then I remember we were sitting around probably Duke and Dave's apartment they were sharing at the time with our manager from Concrete, and we were talking about what we were going to do in the album coming out, et cetera, and he got the call.
Oh, shit.
So we were all sitting around and we just went, it was like, what?
Yeah.
And then, we didn't know if anybody else had gotten hurt or killed or anything either. So, then obviously the information started rolling. But yeah, so it was pretty scary, you think about that, because, I've heard other people say, when you're on tour, and I'm sure you feel like you're pirates and you're indestructible and nothing can get you. And, I'm with my guys and my gang, but you're pretty vulnerable out there if you don't have, people that have their shit together.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well,
that's another one of those things that I think
is delicate. Can't
and I think that's another one of those things that people don't really consider, especially when you're 20, 25 years old. You think you're invincible, and then here's one of the hazards of the business that you never even thought of.
Right.
It's hitting you right in the face. And then you got to think about your own safety. You're thinking, well, this is what I do for a living. What if I'm next? I mean,
do I really want to go put myself in that position?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Yeah.
It was tough, man.
Yeah.
Tough. Tell us about the timeline for your next album, because I know two people in this room that can't wait to hear it. Because
the next Metal Church, Metal Church,
the next Metal Church record. Yeah.
At this point, I have no idea. No idea. Right now, I'm on hiatus from the Metal Church thing and really putting my energies into the new Hall of Flame record because I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
So it's time for me to take a breath and kind of, hey, I'm going to go over here for a little while. Because and then if it's time to do a new Metal Church record down the road, I'll be refreshed and not burnt out on metal. So, I'm just looking forward to the Hall of Flame record coming out because I'm really curious to see how it's received, So I'm excited about that. And the new Presto album, I'm really excited about, but that's another, that's a complete other genre. I like doing other things to see if I can, not that I think I can do it, I also have a solo record that's going to be coming out called Brainchild that I did a couple years ago that's going to be coming out where I just did everything just to see if I could do it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's on Rat Pack Records.
They'll be on Rat Pack. I only work with Rat Pack because, it's like a record company that does a great job. And if there's a problem, I can call them up. Joe and everybody there, they're just, it's like, if it wasn't for Rat Pack, I don't know if I'd still be in the biz, because it's the perfect scenario for me because they do a great job and it's not a big company and they had our back. They really went the extra mile and they do a great job and they'll pick up the phone. And if there's a problem, you deal with it just like a friend.
Do they have offices in the States?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's based out of New Hampshire. Yeah.
Oh, far out. I didn't know that. For some reason, I thought it was a Euro label. I didn't.
No. No.
Okay.
No. We'll license it to a Euro label. But it's the perfect scenario for me. I can make records and go here, put this out. Okay.
Well, they've done a great job. I know they put out Todd's solo stuff as well. So.
Yep.
Hey, listen. Do you like? And you've already expressed that you're extremely happy right now and you're extremely positive. And I think that's the most awesome thing just about Kurt's world is that you're just shining right now. And it's fantastic. Everybody in Metal Church is busy, has other irons in the fire and is doing things and doing this gig or making this record or going on tour with somebody else or writing a new thing or and the beautiful thing is everybody's okay with that.
Yeah, that's another aspect of the business now too, that it's very cool. You can go do other stuff. some people do it to an extreme, but I mean, not necessarily in the people I work with, but there's people that are in 8 million different projects, but you can,
Right. I don't
why
look
not?
at it. I don't look at it as a salad bar.
Yeah.
I look at it as a bouquet.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Good. Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's fancy and there's not that fancy, right?
Right.
A salad bar is kind of, I don't know.
Right, exactly.
But a bouquet, it's like, wow, you get to experience these things.
Yeah,
there's
and
all
that's
of these
another
things.
aspect. Yeah, another aspect of the new music business that's great. I mean, if you have the energy and the desire, you can be creative all the time, which is what I want to do.
I know all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got stacks of songs that need me to finish the fucking thing and people waiting for me out the wazoo.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Can't finish it all.
Right.
So,
exactly. It's great.
Yeah, it is great. It is great.
Yeah. I have no complaints.
Kurdt, I can tell you're in a happy place, and it just makes me smile just listening to you talk. Because
thanks, man. I am happy. I'm very grateful. It's not lost on me that I get to do this at my age. Even with any problems, it's just like, it could be a lot worse.
Oh yeah.
Well, but I get to make music. I get to do this. I've got to do this my whole life in varying degrees, and now I'm making more music and being more productive creatively than I have in years. So. Man, it's not lost on me. Yeah,
I feel like
a
we
lot of joy to a lot of people.
Yeah, you really have. It's been a long. You've been around a while, and I think that people fell in love with Metal Church, and they're never going to forget Metal Church. I'm really glad that this book is out, but as a little reminder, the story of your little band. Is worthy of this fat storybook here.
Right.
People can.
It's pretty amazing.
People can check out Beyond the Black: The Story of Metal Church at nwmetalworks with an X music.com, nwmetalworksmusic.com, or where fine heavy metal books are sold.
Amazon. Right.
Yeah, Amazon. Right. I feel like the new Metal Church record is kind of also an awakening of the band and of the career, especially with the recent losses. And my condolences to all the Metal Church family, from the way back to Mike Howe to Kirk Arrington to back to even to David Wayne. And I just think that you guys have gotten beat up. But life is like that. And, it's just good that people can champion through, what they love through music and through Metal Church music.
Yeah. 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 It's a wonderful blessing without a doubt. It really is.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think you've assembled a great cast of characters. Mark has been a breath of fresh air, and I love the fact that you're, kind of the chemistry between you guys is reigniting that fire. Again, the new Metal Church record, the latest Metal Church record is called Congregation of Annihilation. It is well worth your time. It's amazing. And Kurdt, we really appreciate you being on the show today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's
great getting to know you a little bit. I like I said earlier, I can tell you're in a happy place. It just makes me smile watching you smile. So
cool. Oh, that's awesome.
Continued success to you, sir, with all your
Thank you very much. You guys too, man.
Cool.
Thank you.
And we wish you the best with your back.
and yours as well. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah. It ain't easy getting old, man.
No, it's not. It's not for the timid.
Yeah. No. Kurdt, thank you so very much.
Hey,
On behalf of my co-host, Jason McMaster, I'm Metal Dave Glessner, along with our special guest today, Kurdt Vanderhoof of Metal Church on the Talk Louder podcast.
Thank you very much.